what we're going to do. We're going to do lesson 23 of hands-on equations. You're going to notice that we're going to start with example B, and then we're going to go on and we're going to do example 3. And I'll be doing these in Notability, so please make sure you follow along with your notes. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to go into Notability. Again, we're going to do our first name and last name. We're going to do hour, whatever hour you're in, and then we're going to put lesson 23 and 1 through 10. Please make sure that you label all of your lessons so that we know exactly what lesson you're handing in. So first of all, we're going to look at example B. We're going to write down the original problem that was in the hands-on equations. So I'm going to do star minus 2, parentheses 3x plus 1 equals star plus negative 8. Okay? And we're going to cut our paper in half like we did before because, again, the problem is on the left-hand side and the check is going to be on the right-hand side. So first of all, you're going to notice that one of the things that's going to be kind of different is you're going to notice that this sign right here. So students get confused on whether that is a minus 2 or is that a negative 2. And my answer is yes, it's both. It kind of depends on how you look at it. But the problem is when we try to do the distributive property here and distribute this, that negative plays a role and it becomes really confusing for students. So what I'm going to have you do is anytime you have a negative number in front of the parentheses like this, and you're going to do the distributive property, what I want you to do is I want you to do something that we call the chop cheat, like Miss Clemenson said. I'm going to turn this into a positive and make that a negative, so it becomes a negative 2. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take negative 2 times 3x, and I get 6x. And then what I'm going to do is you're going to notice that this little sign right here is a plus. And so I'm going to go ahead and do a plus. And then I'm going to take a negative 2 and I'm going to multiply it by 1 and I get negative 2. There's our distributive property now. And we're going to write down all of the other things next to that distributive property. You're going to notice that this was turned into a plus, and notice that that plus is down there. Oh, and I accidentally forgot that this is a negative 6. I'm sorry, because negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x. And then the plus is in between it, and then negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Now what we're going to do is kind of what we're used to that we've done before. So you can either work with numbers or you can work with the pawns. It's kind of whatever you want to do. I think what I'm going to do in this instance is I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Okay, and I end up with star plus a negative 6x equals star plus negative 6. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract my star from each side. Again, what I do to one side, I need to do the others as far as that goes. And you're going to notice that I have left over here a negative 6x. That plus that you have right here, kind of, it just goes away. And I have a negative 6x, and I got an equals. And then you're going to notice that this plus sign right here, that also goes away, and I end up with a negative 6. So now I'm going to divide by 6. Negative 6 divided by negative 6. X gives me 1, and star gives me negative 1. Now we're going to come over on the other side, and I'm going to write the original problem. Again, I'm writing the original. And let's see if that answer works. So I'm going to take out star, and I'm going to put in a negative 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and write down the rest of the problem. Then I'm going to take out my x, and I'm going to put in 1. And then I'm going to write down the rest of the problem. I'm going to take out my star, and I'm going to put in a negative 1. And now we're doing our order of operations in our check. So I'm going to go inside the parentheses, and you're going to notice that this is the parentheses that I'm working with right here. And I'm working inside, and I'm going to do the 3 times 1, which is 3. You do one thing at a time. Now, if you wanted to on the right-hand side, if you wanted to add that -1 and 8, you can right here. I'm going to leave it for right now until I'm done with the parentheses. So again, I'm working inside the parentheses because there's stuff going on there. And I end up with 4. And I'm going to leave that -1 and the -8 again. Okay, and now I'm going to multiply. So -2 times 4 is -8. Right? And then I'm going to go further, and I've got -1 minus 8. If you want to do a chop-chi here, you can. You don't need to. It kind of depends on what works for you. And I end up with a -9 on this side. I end up with a -9 on this side, and you're going to notice that it's a check. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on problem C. That's the problems that I showed at the very beginning of this video. The example C, I've got 2x minus parentheses 3 star plus 5 equals 2 star plus 16. Again, I'm going to cut my paper in half with my check on this side. You're going to notice that you've got the parentheses, and outside the parentheses, you've got a negative. Now, before we do a chop-chi, you're going to notice that there's no number between the highlighted negative and the parentheses. When this happens, what you're going to do is you're going to put in a 1 right between the two. Some students think there's a 0 there, and actually there isn't a 0. It's actually a 1, because if it was a 0, it would wipe everything out. So go ahead and put in that 1, and then we're going to go ahead and put in the chop-chi. And I'm going to distribute. So I got -1 times 3 star, which is -3 star. I've got the plus sign between. I'm going to do -1 times 5, which is -5. And I'm going to go ahead then and I'm going to write down all of the stuff around it. Okay. Now it's just a matter of doing what you would like to do with this problem. And it's kind of up to you on how you want to handle it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my 5. Um, 2x plus -3 star equals 2 star plus 21. And again, what I want to do is I want to get the 21 by itself. I want to get rid of the 2 star. I can't subtract 2 star from either side. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 2x. I get 4x plus -3 star equals 2. I want to change the color on that. I'm sorry. Let's go back. Change that color. So it's a little less confusing. So 4x plus -3 star equals 2x plus 2 star plus 21. And I'm going to go ahead and explode on the right-hand side. Minus 2x minus 2 star. Come a little further down. 4x plus a -3 star equals 21. Now, a little bit of a problem here. What some students will want to do is they're going to want to go, oh, I want to get rid of that 3 star. So I'm going to go -3 star minus 3x. You can't do that. And the reason why you can't is because this is a -3 star. You can't subtract something that's already a negative. So that's going to be a problem for us here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 3 star to both sides, just so I can get rid of that negative. And then I'm going to add 3x so I can explode that. Then I'm going to explode. I get 7x equals 21. Then I divide both sides by 7. So I end up with x equaling 3 star equaling -3. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish with my check. So I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to start with the original problem. So 2x minus parentheses 3 star plus 5 parentheses equals 2 star plus 16. I'm going to take out my x and I'm going to put in a 3. Take out my star and put in a -3. Now I'm going to work within my parentheses here, just like that last problem. I'm going to have a -9. And I'm going to copy all that other stuff down around it. Okay, and I'm still working in that parentheses. Now, one thing that students will want to do is you'll notice there's a negative out front, and they're going to want to do a chop chop. Don't do that. The reason why is because you want to work in the parentheses first. So I'm going to want to add these together and make that a -4. Once you get that number alone by itself in the parentheses, then you could do the chop chop, but don't do it before. That's a common mistake. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply. So I end up with a 6. And if I want to do a chop chop here, I can. Oops, I want to make that a black number. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply this side. And then I can go ahead and I can add. So I add this side, I get 10. This side, I get 10. And it's a check. And that is lesson 23. Make sure that if you have any questions, you let me know.